Okay, so in the rear quarter by the sliding door, by the wheel on the van, there's been this big, ugly kind of uh, remains of some kind of dent or bending of all sorts of things. Who knows what went on before when I got the van, but it basically was damaged and it was definitely needed repair. So I'm having a go at using some body filler and sanding and P38, P40, all that kind of stuff, and having a go at trying to smooth out this area and hopefully get a result where it to the casual eye, that's what I'm interested in, the casual eye. If you just glance over the van, it kind of looks okay. And maybe if you're an expert or you really just looking a bit close, you think, oh, okay, so it's not quite factory finish or whatever. But if you were to walk past the van or see it from a distance, you would basically think it looks good. Okay, so let me show you what I've done so far. Okay, so what I've done is, you can see the area that's to be repaired. That's just little minor areas really, but the main area of course is here. Now underneath here is some I've already applied some fiberglass, which is P30, P40 underneath there. I let that dry for a day, and then I've come back and put some P30 on. This is just the first layer. Obviously that's all rough and all that kind of stuff, but this is just a sort of an initial layer there. So this is currently drying, and when that's dry, I'm going to put another layer and kind of make the next one nice and smooth. Hopefully that'll smooth it all out and make a nice consistent sort of line there, sort of filling in all the dents, and hopefully making that a lot more sort of palatable to the eye. Anyway, so this is sort of pretty new work for me. I've not really done much of this kind of stuff in the past, so a bit of a learning curve, but I've obviously been on YouTube doing a lot of research, and I don't know, it seems like you just kind of, you slap it on, smooth it out, and get busy with some sandpaper. That's probably pretty much what to expect. So I don't know, it could be just lots of labor and keep on working at it until it becomes flatter and smoother and eventually hopefully invisible. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed. we will see what happens. Okay, so I'll report back in a little bit and show you the progress. Whew. Okay, a little update. I waited for all of the first layer of filler P38 to dry for a couple of hours, and then did a little bit of a kind of grating with with this, right? Just to remove some of the higher stuff, which to be honest wasn't a lot, because I wasn't trying to make it exactly flat at this point. What I was just doing is taking off the top edges type thing. And now I've just applied the second layer of filler. Okay, so this is kind of, it was quite rough before, very rough and ready. This second layer is starting to smooth out a little bit and getting a little bit nearer to the final shape. Let me show you how it's gone. So there we go, there's a couple of patches. This is the big one that I'm really working at the moment. So as you can see, the second layer, there's a lot there, you see, it's a big area. So I'm not expecting it all to sort of line up straight away. So I think there's going to be a few more iterations. That's one over there, and this is another one that needs to be filled. And there are some other little bits, but I'm not really concentrating on anything other than at the moment that it needs big filling areas. So that's the job up to this point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this to set for a little bit, and then I'm going to sort of again grate it with this thing, just to take off any top edges, anything that's definitely too high, too proud. And then I'll apply another layer, okay, and I'm just going to be hopefully sort of filling in these, so it's going to get smoother and smoother and smoother, hopefully. And I'll always take the kind of the top edges off, and hopefully at some point it's going to get a lot smoother, and then I'll be able to use the sandpaper and a sanding block, and I'll get in there and start to smooth it out. So it's, slow but steady progress. Right, tune back in a moment. I'll go and wait for this one to dry. Okay, this is the third iteration of filler, getting closer and closer. As you can see, there's some dents and scratches and sort of like low points, but you can see I've got something that looks smoother. Okay, that's all these patches are sort of coming on together. And I'm going to be doing more layers, basically, more layers of filler, and then we'll see where we get. Hopefully we'll get something that is entirely smooth at some point. A few iterations of filler down the line. Okay, tune back in, and then I'll show you the progress later on. So a little quick update on the doing the repair work for the sizable dent in my left passenger side rear quarter behind the sliding door. Just let me show you where I've got to. So I've been working away, adding layers of fiberglass and then layers of P38, and I'm just building up because it was quite a big dent, you see. So I've got it more or less now right to where it's kind of roughly filled in correctly, rough, you know, very rough at the moment. And now I've just got to get in there and add in layers of the finer filler so that it smooths it all. I've got to start sanding and smoothing, and then sanding and smoothing and sanding and smoothing, and adding more filler sometimes into any little gap. So that's the task at the moment. It's ongoing. There's another little patch up here and another patch there, but that's how it goes so far. And there we go. Let's see it a little bit better. So I think that's getting to be looking right. And I think once the primer and the paint and everything's on, I'm hoping it will sort of from a little distance. From a little distance, I'm hoping it will just all melt away and just look invisible. That's the plan. Fingers crossed it will turn out. Okay, tune back in for some more. Hello there. So I've been applying fine filler to these repairs, these dents. I filled them in with the main filler, well, P40, which is like a fiberglass, and I've added filler, P38, and now I'm on to fine filler, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. Here we go. Oh, it's a little bit dusty. Right, so this is this orangey type colour, and it's getting pretty smooth now. There's still these little areas that still need to be worked out, but it's much easier to sand. See, that's actually quite smooth to the touch. Smooth there. And I use this kind of thing here with 180 grit at the moment, so it's going to become sort of 220, 320 kind of grit over time. But at the moment, I'm just getting the whole thing pretty smooth, and then what I'll do is I'll look for places that can't be sanded down, anything that's still got dents and dimples in, just like here, and I'll apply some more of this fine filler and build that up again, and then sand it down again. It's pretty easy to sand, so it's just a little bit laborious, but I'm using this stuff extra fine. Okay, that's where I'm at the moment. Look at that. There we go. Nice day today as well. Let me show you where I'm at the moment. I've been sanding and priming to get to this point where everything feels smooth, and now I'm just going to go and give it I'm ready for some primer. So I'm going to just get my mask on and give it a priming and see how we get on. Okay, so grey primer applied, and I'm not great at applying these sprays and stuff, so I'm sort of learning as I go, and I can see things have sort of dribbled a little bit. Let me just show you. Put the grey on, the grey primer. It looks okay, but there's a couple of places where I can see that it's starting to run a little bit. Obviously my technique needs improving, but I don't do this very often, not very much at all. So that's what we've got so far, and I think what I'll do is let that dry, and then I'll apply some sandpaper again and just sort of take it down lightly, and hopefully those little dribbles will sort of iron out. And then I'm going to apply a black coat, so fingers crossed I can get it back to smooth and get on to the next stage, which is the black primer. Okay. So, okay, let me show you. I've put the grey on, and I'm going to, I've sanded it a little bit now. Let me show you where we're... Okay, so we have sanded a little bit. It's come through in places. You can see the under the filler again. And this is actually, it's all pretty smooth there actually, but I am ready to go for the next stage, which is to add a darker primer. So I'll watch this space, see how we get on. Ooh, so the next stage is the has been the black primer. Show you what I did there. The black primer is now on. There we go. Okay, there it is. So I was able to sort of cover everything up there. I can still see some little dimples and things. I think if I apply some 1500 grit sandpaper, and that will help to even things out, and even maybe be able to fill in a few of these little dimples or whatever. We'll see how it goes anyway. So I'm going to the next stage is applying sandpaper and smooth the whole area out, ready for the final coat of the top coat layer. Tune back in a moment, see how we get on. Exciting. One word: cracks. Cracks. Okay, the solution according to the internet is to grind them out, fill them in, and off I go. So, progress with the cracks. Let's have a look. I put some filler in the crack. Okay, they're very rough and ready at the moment, but that's the extent of where the cracks were. I ground them out with a drill kind of thing. Here, I'll show you the drill. I just ground it out a fair way down, you know, half an inch or so, and then filled it in with some filler, and that is all. That's what the internet says to do. Okay, well, we'll see, because one thing you don't want is every time it gets cold, you don't want the crack getting bigger, and you just don't want cracks, do you? So you've got to try and find a way of stabilizing the filler, so that if it gets hot and cold or whatever, it doesn't suddenly break on the surface or whatever. So anyway, we'll see how we go. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this puts an end to the cracks. Okay, and we have the grand final reveal after, it seems like weeks, but it's possibly been maybe about a week of me working on the damage repair. Not created by me, I hasten to add. So the van came with this huge, great big dent, cavity, I don't know what it was, at in the rear quarter, just behind the sliding door. So I'm going to show you the final result after many days and iterations of filler and fiberglass, and then fine filler and sanding, and then cracks, and then more filler, etc., etc. So here we go. I'm going to show you what I've done. I've done the undercoat. I've done the top coat, and I've put the lacquer on. So here, ta-da! Now, let's see if you can see this in the. There we go. I think you'll agree remember that was a huge, great big cavity there, and this was all dented and bashed, and there was a huge, great big dent around there as well. Loads missing. So there we have it. This is the final result, and this is the van looking from a distance. And I think there's some, it's not absolutely perfect. If you really studied it in a certain light, and maybe you could see things. There is some kind of dent at the lower bit there. This is going to be blacked out at some point. I'm going to sand this flat and then put a proper black coat on there, some Raptor, and then that will make that all smart as well. So there it is. I think time and a little bit of money, not too much, but mostly time and effort and persistence were well spent. That was a big thing, because when you've got like a sort of it is cosmetic, right? So it's not affecting the running of the vehicle, but when you have a cosmetic thing like that, it kind of affects your mentality about how to keep the rest of the vehicle in shape. So if you've got a big sort of ugly thing like that, when you're trying to do, you know, really perfectionistic work later on, it's like, well, it tends to sort of take away from wanting to do your give it your best. So I've given it my best to really give this repair and make it as invisible as possible from a little bit of distance, and hopefully I've achieved that. And now that means now I can move on to the next phase with a little bit more confidence, feeling like the van is presentable, and I feel good about it, you know, because appearances make a big difference, I think, and it makes you feel a certain way from the appearance, and other people feel that as well, not just me, of course. Okie dokie, next job is the underfloor, and I've got to work out what I'm going to do there. So thanks for following along so far. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.